Hi everyone, just waiting for Hayley to join us. Hope you're doing well. We're going to be talking about shadow work this evening, and I'm excited about this because actually it's not a term that I necessarily use, but I know that I do the work, if that makes sense. So Hayley and I are going to talk a little bit about that, and I think she's going to be able to educate me a bit more tonight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully she'll be joining in just a moment. I've also got my tarot deck with me today, so we're going to maybe play with that a little bit at the end of this video as well. I think that Hayley's bringing her angel cards too. I've just got a message from Hayley saying refreshing but nothing yet. I don't know how are we having technical issues? Oh, here she is, she wants to join now. It's every week. Don't know why. It is. Good. Hello.
Hi.
You're right.
I think we're getting quicker at this.
That was quicker.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, doing good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Never do anything to it, just fine.
Tight up, over.
Yeah. Gone are the days where I make an effort. Yeah. But I've never been happier, so it's good.
Right, shadow work, Hayley.
Yeah. It's just a bit of a label, really, isn't it? Of a bit of, I think it's one of them buzzwords, really, that people throw around quite a lot. But really the essence of shadow work is mainly around sitting with the darkness within ourselves, not perceiving it as any flaws or anything's wrong or mistakes. It's just a part of us that's potentially been banished, suppressed, parts of us that we don't like, and a lot of it is in the unconscious. So shadow work is around reflecting and having the awareness of what lies in our shadow, and ways that we're hiding ourselves and not being able to show up as our authentic selves, because it's all a part of us. We live in a world of duality, light, dark, sun, moon, right, wrong. So the more that we can integrate the shadow and allow the unconscious to become conscious, the more of a peaceful and free life that we can lead. I know you mentioned that you've probably done shadow work without using the label shadow, but yeah, what have you kind of...
Well, actually, I talk about this often, but as I say, I don't use that label.
Yeah.
Firstly, the world teaches us to hide our flaws, and it teaches us to aim for perfection.
Yeah.
And it teaches us to reserve ourselves to protect other people or to please other people. And so I think a big chunk of shadow work, if that's the term we're using this evening, is about honesty and acceptance. And I think when we recognize that behind this facade that we've all been raised to use in the world to get us places, to achieve things, to win people over, we're all just as broken and as messed up and as dark as each other. But I think what has really come to light and I want to even say post-pandemic, the world has changed. And I think social media has changed. And I think what we're seeing is a lot more authenticity from people. Not from everyone, I would actually say not from the majority, but I think that there's a lot more authenticity out there than there ever was.
Yeah.
I think that something like COVID gave us permission to wallow in our own darkness for a little bit, to do a bit of home time.
Absolutely. And slow down a bit.
Yeah.
And to reflect on these things.
Reflect was the exact word I was just going to use. Because I think we were so busy before in whatever we were doing in our lives, we never stopped. and then we were forced to stop as a world, as a whole planet Earth, forced to stop.
I'm definitely guilty of that.
That brought a lot of stuff to the surface.
Yeah.
For a lot of brave people, they splashed that all over social media. And
legends, warriors.
yeah, and for me, yeah, maybe some of that stuff was cringy, or some of it we didn't want to see. However, what it did do is it paved the way for more honesty in the world, more genuine emotions, more conversations about mental health.
Absolutely.
And I think we became more human because of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of, I was in that, keep myself so busy so that I don't have to face myself. And then when it did come to a time where you had to slow down, it can be excruciatingly painful at times, because we don't want to sit with this uncomfortability. We're not used to having to be present with that.
Yeah.
And I think people are saying about, you know, presence is so powerful, but presence isn't always positive. Being fully present and authentic is about accepting all parts, and in the present moment, if you're going through a tough time, honoring that as well. And definitely easier said than done, because it's definitely one of the hardest things that I've had to do in feeling my emotions. For the empaths out there that can relate, who feel quite deeply, it's a practice for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the world is messy, the world is judgmental, the world is unkind, but the only thing that we have control of out of all of that is how kind we are to ourselves. And I think that is what impacts everything else that we do, and the way that we behave and the way that we connect with other people. And so I think a lot of this shadow work comes from that place of acceptance of ourselves. And then in turn, we become kinder to other people. We become tolerant. We recognize that the world isn't as beautiful and as shiny and as sexy as we've been made to believe, but it is more beautiful and shiny and sexy in totally different ways, in ways more real, in ways that are more authentic. And I think people are starting to gravitate to that. And even from a marketing perspective, you used to, you know, even what we're doing now, right? So prior to the pandemic, I would put a nice picture of me doing yoga, a very nice shot, and it would be a really fancy pose. And then people would buy into that. That was aspirational. That was what people wanted to achieve. But post-pandemic, that stuff doesn't work because it's not real.
Yeah.
People want to connect with people, and people want to buy from people. They don't want a 2-for-1 deal, or a you know, something fancy to aspire to. They just want authenticity now. And I think that's the way that marketing is going. And I think that the reason that these lives work so well for us is firstly because we're sharing our genuine whole selves and the things that we have learned, and we're sharing the darkness that we've experienced and the light that we've experienced. And then that becomes inspirational. The messy parts become inspirational, not the sexy parts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just showing up even when we have technical issues and make mistakes or whatever it may be, that's authentic, because it's giving people permission to be human.
Absolutely.
And to make mistakes and be flawed.
We could film this, we could edit it, we could put a nice intro and a title, and then it all looked fancy. And then we would spend hours doing that.
Yeah.
And it
Too much effort for me. Yeah.
We're far better showing up, being imperfect, being real. That's what people want. And I think that the world is turning to that now. And I love that for the world.
Yeah. Same. And I think a really great tip for anyone wanting to dive deep into integrating the shadow and doing a bit of shadow work and raising their awareness is to look at our relationships, because they're a big mirror for us, and look at our triggers. I think triggers are the biggest ones, because any kind of big emotional reaction is pointing to just an unhealed part of ourselves and an aspect of our shadow. And even at the time, it can be difficult to go through. Often when we look back in hindsight, we're like, wow, Jesus, I've learned so much from that, and I've grown so much from that. Like before we stepped into all the stuff with COVID, if you said to someone like, you're going to go through this in the next 2 years, you'd have been like,
no, that's sci-fi crap. right?
No way. Like, and then you look back and be like, we got through that. And I think something powerful about that is because everyone has struggles in life, but that particular thing that happened in the world was all over the world. No one was better off or worse. We were all going through
We
this.
all shared the same struggle for the first time in human history.
Yeah, it was
more
powerful, and there's pros and cons to everything. Some people flourished in COVID, found new hobbies and got creative and whatever, and others just really struggled.
I think that, I mean, it's all still unfolding, of course, but I think that in time we're going to look back at this and realize it was a real shift for humanity.
Yeah, I think it needed to happen. And look at what happened on the earth and the oceans, and they flourished and nature just thrived. There were good things that come from it.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for sure, and it's one for the history books.
I have sometimes I put my rose-colored glasses on though when I look back at certain things. I know there were tough times of it as well, but I'm like, just got these on, I'm like, yeah, it's all great. But again, that can be dangerous when we're not reflecting everything. Not like I want to get stuck anywhere in the past or relive it too much, but I've definitely been guilty of being a bit toxically positive and spiritual bypassing, as they call it.
I mean,
and just doing the good, light, fluffy things, but I don't think we can evolve spiritually to the place that we want to get to unless we are looking at that shadow aspect as well.
a nice segue here actually, because something that I talk about often and that I've learned through tarot is that we need to balance the darkness and the light. When we are stuck in the light, in this toxic positivity where everything's fluffy and wonderful and we must reframe everything and we must think positive and we must put a smile on our face, it's messy, it's not real, and we never deal with anything and we never learn or grow. Spend too much time in the darkness, we're stuck in the darkness. So it's about a balance and really finding balance between those two things. And yeah, for me, that's something I've just learned through doing many tarot readings and it coming up over and over and over again. I think that it resonates with the person with me, but more importantly, it's repeating itself because it's supposed to be a message for me too.
I love that. And I just want to touch on something you said there of the patterns, because that's a big shadow element of noticing when repeating patterns are coming up, because that's some part of your shadow that's trying to get your attention as well.
Yeah,
that's really cool that you could recognize that and like, fine, I'll listen.
Cycles and patterns.
Yeah. Oh, this again. What is it? I read something like people you meet are either a reflection or a repeating pattern. Know the difference.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I liked that one too.
I've been just based on the basis of this conversation, I have noticed patterns repeating lately and I've been triggered lately. So something's going on that I'm not paying attention to.
Yeah, I think the energy's been coming in hot at the minute. I think a lot of people have been getting quite triggered. I think the solar flares have a lot to do with that. Every time I find this energy coming in of triggering stuff, I'm like, oh, what are the solar flares doing? And I look it up and I'm like, yeah, they're coming in hot. And you like tell yourself all these things in the time. It's happening as it's meant to. It's happening for me and not to me. Triggers are my teacher, and you're just like,
Nothing better than someone in the meantime.
But again, you're still human. You're going to be feeling however you want to feel in this situation, frustrated, angry, and that's all okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, validating and accepting those thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Because again, we live in this world, or we lived in this world where it wasn't okay to do that. It wasn't safe to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so many people say, oh, I'm just trying to push that inner critic away, or I want to release this and let go and clear and transmute and all these things. But it's like, well, that's still a state of resistance and suppressing, really, because it's actually all about acknowledging and welcoming. And when we can do that, we can come into a state of objectiveness. So instead of being so emotionally charged up by these things where we feel like we're not in the driver's seat and everything's overwhelming and too much, we have that state of awareness where we've got that separation between the emotion and whatever it is that we're dealing with, and then being objective and at peace with it and just noticing it instead of being just like fully in it. And that's where I used to get to, I think, where I'd just get burnt out, totally overwhelmed. I was a human doing rather than a human being, instead of like sitting with it all and accepting it and welcoming it in. So now I'm practicing more, because I'm like, let's let this go and cleanse and release and transmute. But I'm practicing now to do my best more to sit with it, and I welcome this in, I acknowledge you, because it just wants to be heard. And people that are reflecting things to us, for instance, I don't feel listened to, and I feel like they're not listening to me or whatever. How can I bring this back to myself and use it as a mirror, asking myself, like, where am I not listening to my own needs and things like that? Asking the questions about it and prompting yourself with questions around it. It's powerful.
I think there's a couple of things there. One is that there seems to be this thing in the world where we must fix everything. We're having emotion, there's something wrong with us, we must fix it. And that is not acceptance. We don't need, as you say, to like transmute or whatever. We just need to be with it. It doesn't need fixing. It just needs to, as you said, to be heard or to come out, or whatever. We don't need to fix everything. There's nothing wrong with us because we're having human experiences or human emotions.
Yeah.
The other thing is suppression. And I think, as particularly in the Western world, we generationally have been taught to suppress. If we think about our parents, they're baby boomers, so they come off the back of the war. So when, actually, I don't know, I think your parents are probably a bit younger than mine, but their parents lived in fear. They had to live in fear, and they had to suppress to survive. They had to just act in command and control because that was survival, and everyone had to do the same thing to survive. So then our parents are born after the war, and their parents, our grandparents, still have this survival mindset, this mentality where it's the classic British stiff upper lip. It's not healthy or safe to express your emotions. We don't have time for that. We're just surviving.
Yeah.
And so they ingrain that in their children. And then their children grow up and they ingrain it in us, our generation. But as these generations progress, of course, it's diluting and diluting and diluting, because we're not at war anymore in this country. At least we're very lucky, so we have a lot more freedom, and we haven't had to experience not knowing when our next meal is coming, not knowing if we're going to be killed in the night. We haven't had to experience that, and we're very lucky and we're very blessed for that, and we don't really recognize it. But what this does do is it gives us massive freedom, but it also gives us massive conflict, because currently the world is being operated by baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
These children who are with their parents' fear. And so suppression is the norm. And we're, of course, they never would have spoke about mental health back then. It wasn't even a thing. You just sucked it up.
It wasn't even a name for anxiety, right? You just had this weird feeling.
Yeah, and you just shoved it down. And, probably there was a lot more that came out in other ways, like domestic violence or alcohol misuse or whatever. The list goes on. But we're a much more open society now. Even young people, they talk about it. Mental health is the norm to talk about now.
Yeah.
Right. So we're starting to recognize that we don't have to fix everything anymore. We don't all have problems. We're just all being human.
Yeah.
And so it's different. And so I think that generationally, as it dilutes even more, I think that suppression isn't going to be so much of a thing anymore.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
So
on that note, did you bring your cards with you?
I got my favourite deck here.
I've got one of the decks in the studio because I left mine at home.
Woohoo! Nice.
So how are we doing this, Hayley?
I don't mind. You fancy just pulling a card each and see how we're going for time?
Yeah.
Oh, but yours is different. See, you could pull a few and you might need to pull a few, because angel oracle cards different. I don't do tarot so much, so I'll just let you kind of do your thing, and then I'll pull a card after, maybe.
Right. Okay, I'm going to do some cards. I'll see what jumps out, and then you can clarify with your angel cards.
Okay.
So basically, in a nutshell, if you're watching this, you need this message.
Yeah.
3 cards just came out. So we start with the Ace of Wands, gifts from the universe. I don't know if you believe as I believe. I mean, I think you and I do, Hayley, but maybe not everyone. That's okay. That we live many lifetimes, and in each lifetime we put a few things on our timeline. And when I see this hand coming out of the cloud, for me it's like the universe has been waiting to give me this, but I have to be ready. So I think as we're talking about the shadow side, I would be inclined to think that this is in relation to, if we do the work, if we recognize and accept ourselves, and start to feel more comfortable with our shadow side, then the universe is going to deliver. Like, things that we have been trying to manifest or create in the world will start to happen for us. They're waiting there on our timeline for us, but they will come only if we do the work, only when we're ready. Next, we have this 9 of Cups card. So in this 9 of Cups, you can see this guy with all these cups stacked up on a shelf behind him, and he's sat there with his arms crossed, almost a little bit like, almost a bit defensive, or a bit abrasive, maybe, saying, look, I've got my shit sorted out here. And no one else is going to come in here, and no one else is going to mess with that. And for me, this represents like a firmness and a strength. However, what comes with firmness and strength is inflexibility, or an inability or arrogance even to not listen to other people's views or perspectives. So I think that if you put these two things together, and we're talking about the shadow work, I think that there's some work to be done around understanding of other people's perspectives, and not just being so stubborn and think that you've got it all sorted out, because this illusion that we all have it all sorted out is nonsense. Nobody has got their shit together. No one.
Amen.
So yeah, I think when we look at shadow side, perhaps it's a little bit more work to be done around recognizing that the world is actually a little bit fake in that respect. If you think someone's got it together, they haven't, and that means that we don't need to have it together either. We're all together. And then this other card here, the 6 of Pentacles, we see the scales here, and then on the other side of that we see this person giving back to the needy. And so this is representing restoring balance in the world. And again, the shadow work is about restoring balance. It's about bringing the darkness and the light together, right? And when you do that, when you get yourself into balance, you get yourself into a place where you're then able to give back authentically. You're able to show up authentically. You're able to do your duty in the world, right? And it's not all about you, but it's about then how you interact with the world, and how you can start being more present amongst the world. So when you put these 3 things together, and us talking about shadow work, I think that this is all very much about this journey of really getting in touch with yourself, because once you've done that, you're then going to be able to output in the world better, and then the universe is going to deliver something that you're waiting to manifest. That's my name.
Nice. Cool. Hope that resonates for everyone. And yeah, like Luke says, if you're watching this or the repeat, this message is for you. So I've got these are my favorite cards. I got these when I was in Canada, but she's from the UK, and it's the mystical mermaid wisdom cards, and they're just divine. So just usually knock twice to clear the energy from anyone else, and then just tune into the divine. Thank you for bringing a message through today for the collective. Anyone watching here today live or the repeat, to bring a message of guidance, something they may need to hear, support, help, and we've got one's just flown right out at me. I really want to tell you this one. Okay, so we've got the mermaid waiting, and I'm just going to tune in to what I pick up on this card, and then I will also read from the book. But firstly, I like to just see what comes through. So yeah, then picking up, this is very much a time of like that hermit mode and doing that inner work. And when we are patient with it and we're sitting with it, the reward is then coming. You can see that the ship, I don't know if you can see it, the ship is all the way out there, and it's not about forcing anything, trying to make things happen from a place of resistance, but it's actually allowing and attracting that abundance to you, bringing in, like you were saying as well, with the balance, and that will come once we've balanced ourselves properly. So in accepting the light and the darkness, I feel like there's the clouds kind of coming overhead is representing of the darkness coming in as well, and just beginning to allow and honor it all with more of a flow. So the water represents our emotions, and allowing them to flow with more acceptance, and just acknowledging the emotions when they come, let go of any resistance around it, and just be objective. So what's coming through is like, be curious with when the judgments come in, the inner critic comes in, and have a chat with it. Just be like, oh, hi, yes, so thank you for being here. Kind of thank it, be grateful for it, because it's doing its job. The ego, the unconscious, the inner critic, its job is to keep you safe and protected. So that's all it wants to do. And that might mean that you're not thriving, you're not happy, but they're happy because you're safe. So acknowledging that they're doing their job and being actually, well, thank you for that, but then reframing it in a way of, I'm actually going to do things differently now, and just having a chat with it and being a bit more playful with it, rather than taking things so seriously. She looks just so chill and so at peace, and that everything is as it is, and it's just reminding us that we cause our own suffering in our minds. And when we realize everything is as it's meant to be, it happens for us, then we do take back our power. And I'll read out what the card has to say as well, because sometimes comes through with a bit of a different meaning to what I get. So www, right at the end. So call on qualities of patience while you're waiting for something to happen. Your ship is about to come in. The mermaid asks, what is that you're waiting for? Is it a person or a situation? And if so, is there an action you can take while you wait? Perhaps you've made a wish for something you are waiting for to manifest. It's important to take some form of action to meet that wish halfway. Are you waiting patiently, or are you getting excited? Is the feeling like waiting for a seasonal holiday when you'll exchange a gift or two? If this is the case, the suspense of waiting can be an enjoyable experience, as it's filled with anticipation and excitement. Perhaps you're waiting or yearning for a specific outcome. Be mindful of any projected expectations that you may have about an object or subject that you desire. If you can turn waiting into being, use mindfulness techniques. This can help to make the waiting more bearable. This card also says that your ship is about to come in. You have or are developing patience, and you're about to reap the rewards. This message is enhanced with the patience and or abundance card, so if it appears in the same spread. Perhaps you're simply waiting passively for your ship to come in without doing anything. Yes, some things can certainly be left to destiny. However, you also have the option of swimming out to meet the ship halfway if this feels like the right course of action for you. Maybe you think you've been waiting too long. How long is too long? Read these questions again and notice how you feel. Remember, some things are definitely worth waiting for, but others aren't. Only you will know which applies here. So using discernment in this case as well. Thank you for listening.
Nice. Good. So thank you. It was another great live.
Always a pleasure, Luke.
So we will be back next week, I believe.
Yeah. Not sure what subject yet, but I'm sure something will pop in.
I've got a quick question. Is it your birthday today or Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
The magical 111, of course.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And the new moon.
And the new moon. Very nice. You know, it's weird seeing 111 all day today.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you? Maybe we could do numbers, numerology. I just got really excited.
Well, there you go.
Topic.
Sorted.
But what does 111 mean for you?
We'll find out next week once I've Googled it.
I always think it's expansions of consciousness. You're shifting, your awareness is being raised, you're getting into the next level, which I'm picking up a strong vibe for you, because especially it usually happens after triggers and challenges as well.
Well, actually,
so you've got
this it's only really been the last day or two that I've been seeing it a lot, and every time I've just kind of made a wish on it.
Yes. So, beautiful.
Because you know the one's the beginning, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So tune in next time for more about numerology.
Yeah. I can't wait for it, because everyone has different meanings for it, and Google has different meanings, but also I think it's about tuning into what you actually get when you see the number, or what you were thinking about before. But we'll leave some stuff for next week as well. I'm excited for that. Cool.
See you later. Have a lovely
all right
week. Happy birthday.
Bye everyone, thanks for tuning in. Namaste.
Bye.